Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Gene Jake here, and today I'm reviewing and ranking Centipede in all its forms on the Evercade. I'm also going to incorporate Millipede in this, as they are very similar games, and there's not enough different about the games to really warrant a separate video for it. So my personal experience with Centipede and Millipede is, well, I'd heard of them and I played them on various home micros or versions of them, or knockoffs of them, some of which I barely even remember. I'm not even sure when I first played the arcade versions. It wasn't in the arcade, it was on some kind of compilation, retro collection, but exactly when, I've no idea. And although they are games that have been sort of present in the gaming scene throughout my entire, gaming life, they aren't games that I'd played masses of prior to getting the Evercade. I'd played them and liked them well enough, but never really gotten into them or mastered them or anything like that. And I dare say I still haven't mastered them. I don't think I'm particularly great at the games, but I do have fun with them now. Generally, I do prefer Centipede. I like the purity of it, the simplistic nature. I found Millipede added a few things and it came up maybe a tiny bit too much, or maybe I just need to get better at it. But I don't have a huge amount to say about these games. They are fairly straightforward arcade classics that I'd imagine most people know all too well. So let's move on to the various versions we have on the Evercade, starting with the 2600 port of Centipede on Atari Collection 1. This port does look extremely basic, very blocky graphics, barely anything to differentiate the various enemies and things. Quite simply, it looks like ass. The sound isn't much to talk about either, but it does play well. The gameplay is pretty much intact from the arcade version. It's fast, frantic action and is still a lot of fun. And if you find Centipede a bit difficult or awkward to get started with, this is probably a good version to get your practice in, to get to know the gameplay and the quirks of it. To place this in my overall ranking of Evercade games, despite not really looking like much or anything, I think it'd have to go above Skulljagger, but just below Full Void. That classic arcade action gameplay goes a long way. So moving on to the 7800 port of Centipede from Atari Collection 2, we have a much closer to the arcade original port that still has some subtle differences, as ports do. To place the game in my overall Evercade game rankings, I would have to put it just above Full Void, which is kind of a hard decision. Full Void is a very good game. Artistically and aesthetically is obviously vastly superior, but the fun arcade action of Centipede and replayability just edges it above Full Void for me. But they are really hard to compare, and ultimately it comes down to which I come back to more. Sticking with Atari Collection 2, we have the 2600 port of Millipede, and while the 2600 port of Centipede did really well in capturing the arcade gameplay of the original, I do feel that the technical shortcomings of the Millipede port hold it back quite a bit. The core gameplay is pretty much intact, it just hasn't got the smoothness and fluidity of the original. To place it in my overall rankings, I would have to put it below Skulljagger. Can I put it below Sword of Sedan? Yes, maybe. I really don't come back to this port very often. I'm not that keen on it at all. Whereas Sword of Sedan, I appreciate for its jankiness, and this is probably just a me thing. I doubt many people would. But yeah, it is going below Sword of Sedan, but above Uchuzn. And now we move on to Atari Arcade Collection 1 for the arcade originals of both games. Let's start with Centipede. At this point, is there anything else I can say about Centipede? This is the arcade original, fast frantic gameplay, and it's what really established this type of gameplay as far as I'm aware. Maybe there were other games like it beforehand, but I'm not aware of them. Now, I do find playing on the Evercade, this doesn't feel quite as smooth as I might like. So in my overall Evercade rankings, I would place it just below the 7800 ports of Centipede. And finally, we have the arcade original of Millipede. As I mentioned before, I'm not as big a fan of Millipede as I am the original Centipede. The sequel style enhancements just, I don't know, make it lose something for me. But it's still a good, fun arcade blast. To place it in my overall Evercade rankings, I would have to put it just below Centipede 2600 and above Skulljagger. Actually, I said and finally when I did Millipede, but I should do another game here, as it's essentially a Centipede knockoff, and that is Hummings, one of the free games on the VS. And is it on the Alpha? I don't know, maybe it's on the Alpha, but it's definitely on the VS. This modern update of Centipede plays largely the same. It's not quite as fast and frantic. It has modern sort of high-res graphics, which I wouldn't say they are the most appealing, but it has a distinct look and doesn't look bad at all, and has some interesting power-ups and different elements, including bosses and things. And to be perfectly honest, I play this more than any other interpretation of Centipede. Given the amount I've played it and how often I come back to it, I have to put this above Centipede 7800, but just below Tomb Raider, ranking this free game as my second favourite game on the Evercade of the ones I've done on this ranking. I doubt many other people would rank it so highly. Perhaps I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, this list is very much well, it's growing, and I don't imagine it will hold the number 2 spot for all that long. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and hearing my nonsense ramblings, but for now it's goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.